clearly consultants do not go into medicine to strike, and this is a matter of last resort. And I think
but I can tell you that the public will not support you. They no longer support the resident doctors, the junior doctors going on strike. They're not. I can tell you now, they are not going to en masse support you lot going on strike. They're just not.
Clearly, announcing strikes in the NHS is never popular with the public. But what we find is that because we've tried really hard to negotiate to progress without taking strike action. And please remember, we haven't actually announced strike dates yet. We have a mandate to strike over the next 12 months, and we really hope that we can progress negotiations with the government without having to resort to actually calling strike dates.
Trade unions have been able to call strikes without fear of being sued for damages since 1906. But could anyone ever imagine that right would be used by NHS consultants in England? They're paid more than $100,000 a year and have the kind of guaranteed inflation-proof pensions that have long gone for most workers. In a ballot, 76% of the senior doctors who are members of the BMA, the British Medical Association, said they'd be willing to take industrial action over pay and pensions. That means the BMA can call a strike at some point over the next 12 months. Let's talk to Dr. Simon Walsh, who's the Deputy Chair of the BMA UK Consultants Commission. Simon, morning to you.
Yeah, morning, Stig.
What are you asking for? What do you want?
Well, the reason that consultants have voted a very strong yes in this balance, 76% of eligible members voted yes, is because we have been trying to negotiate with the government to address the issues around sustainability and the quality of role. And that does include pay, but it also includes the issues which are driving more and more consultants to reduce their NHS activity or even leave the NHS entirely. And that, of course, impacts on patients and on the ability of patients to receive excellent, high-quality, timely care, which is what all of us believe in who work in the NHS.
So I've seen it reported that you want an extra 33% over several years and a reduction in hours at the same time. Is that true?
We haven't demanded 33%. What we've done is we've used comparators for international comparators and comparators within the UK, which show how consultant pay has been reduced, but it's 25% back from where it would have been in 2008, but by that reduction, which is completely different to the rest of the economy. So we have used international comparators to. Because those are the comparators which doctors look at when they're choosing where to work.
But does that amount to about 33% over several years?
No, not 33%. We've actually haven't put a figure on what.
Or should you not put a figure on it? What's the number you're looking for?
So we're trying to negotiate with the government to get a reasonable journey towards restoring our pay, but also looking to address the sustainability issues, which means that consultants are increasingly reporting burnout and stress in surveys by the GMC, and indeed the public, when we surveyed or we commissioned an independent survey of the public, they are increasingly worried about consultants not being able to sustain the workload in the NHS. So pay is part of this, but this is about having a workforce which gives the public what they deserve.
I understand that point, but you had a 28.5% increase over the last 4 years in basic pay. I think that's right. You're seeking a reduction in hours at the same time, and you're seeking a restoration of multiples of what the inflation number is now in order to get what you call pay restoration. So you are seeking a lot more money and fewer hours, or you're going to go on strike. That's what this boils down to.
Well, 28% pay rise over the last 4 years sounds a lot when taken in isolation, but when you look at it
is a lot.
Not when you compare it with inflation, which with the RPI has increased by 35%, and even CPI has increased by 29% in that same period.
But inflation is currently less than 3%, and so what you're asking for the future, if you want to link it to inflation, then the inflation is 2.8% at the minute.
So, if we look at single years, obviously we can get into what the rate, the increase would need to be to keep treading water, which is what we have at the moment. And unfortunately, although the previous Secretary of State has acknowledged that there is a journey towards pay restoration, not a single event, and the fact that our pay review body has acknowledged that our pay has declined over time, what has failed to happen is either the pay review body or the government takes steps to address that issue, which is meaning more and more doctors are leaving or reducing their work in the NHS. I heard a story of a cardiologist only yesterday who has stopped his NHS work and is doing purely independent work and working 2 days a week in the Republic of Ireland, where he can earn double the salary that we can in England.
But is that right? Is that the right thing to do then? He was trained at the taxpayers' expense. This is a job with huge social capital. And the fact that he can just go off and earn a fortune in the private sector, I don't think is anything to be commended, is it? That's something that we all lose when he does that, don't we?
Well, many of us, I mean, I work as an emergency medicine consultant where there isn't effectively any private or independent work available. And the vast majority of consultants in the UK absolutely believe in the NHS. And that's why we are, unfortunately, we're working in an unsustainable fashion, though. And there is an opportunity for those who are in specialties where there is independent or private work for them to do some work in that sector. That's always been the case in the UK. Yeah. And of course, when you have a government and a series of governments who have overseen a decline of the working conditions and the sustainability of careers in the NHS, it's hardly surprising that consultants make a choice to do less. Or even
I understand that point, but being a consultant is a job with a huge social capital. You get in many disciplines to do private work to top it up. It's got a pension that dwarfs that in the private sector. Do you understand that people will be listening to this and saying, you guys do all right, striking is unacceptable?
What we see when we survey the public is we hear they're really worried about the future of the NHS and the future of of consultants being able to sustain the NHS. The reality is that consultants are working harder than ever.
Do they support strikes, though? That's a different question. Have you had this polling that says they support you going on strike?
Well, consultants do not go into medicine to strike, and this is a matter of last resort. And I
can tell you that the public will not support you going. They no longer support the resident doctors, the junior doctors going on strike. They're not. I can tell you now, they are not going to en masse support you lot going on strike. They're just not.
Clearly, announcing strikes in the NHS is never popular with the public. But what we find is that because we've tried really hard to negotiate to progress without taking strike action. And please remember, we haven't actually announced strike dates yet. We have a mandate to strike over the next 12 months, and we really hope that we can progress negotiations with the government without having to resort to actually calling strike dates. That's what all of us want. That's what the public would like the government to do, I'm sure, and that's what the patients who are in the NHS every day deserve.
I mentioned pensions, and NHS pensions are very complicated when you look into them because it depends where you started and all that. The website Pension Bible reckons an average consultant should get a pension of 75 grand a year. That is out of the dreams of most people in the private sector. So you're going to get a good salary in the top 2% in the country, in the top percent probably of public servants. You're going to get a massive gold-plated pension, and then you're threatening to go on strike. That's what galls people, I think, Simon.
One of the things the factors that people take into account when working in public services, including the NHS, is indeed the pension. Yeah. Now, actually, the value of that pension has been eroded, although it is certainly one of the things which is.
It's probably about. Is this 75 grand sound about right?
It varies quite significantly, actually, depending on what type of pension scheme. It's very complex, and it's one of the things the thing we're pushing for is about accessing what's called partial retirement, so that the consultants are not disadvantaged by the very sort of variable approach that employers take to this. But actually, it's this. We're not demanding larger pensions. What we're demanding is that the government takes steps to avoid. To stop the further erosion of the consultant workforce in the NHS, which is what we all believe in. And that is absolutely possible by negotiating with us and avoiding us having to take strike action at all.
Simon, good to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Simon Walsh, the Deputy Chair of the BMA UK Consultants Committee.